Hello, my name is Dr. Cheryl Burdette, and I am the Director of Education for Origins Incubator. And today we talked about the more complicated chronic patient. What can we do to really jumpstart change? And one of the things that we looked at was a ketogenic diet. And I think that we got a lot of confusion about ketones as we went through med school because the way we talked about ketones was when there was an increase in ketones secondary to insulin resistance as a diabetic. And so that is a level of production of ketone that is much higher than could ever be created by entering into ketosis because of dietary changes. So when we do a ketogenic diet, we produce much less ketones than what you would see if somebody were in that emergent state in terms of type 2 diabetic and going into a ketogenic coma. So, very different in terms of the amount of ketones and the reason why it's occurring. So, that gave the perspective or the perception that ketones maybe are not beneficial. But it turns out, as we dig through the research, ketones are highly beneficial and it's been shown that they improve cognitive function. So, as we have a decrease in cognitive function, the cells in our brain become more resistant to glucose. And so, what you see, for example, on SPECT scans is you can see areas of the brain that aren't lighting up as much anymore. But then, when somebody either uses diet to create ketones endogenously, or when they take ketones exogenously, what you see are areas of the brain begin to light up because ketones flux very easily in and can be used for energy quite readily. They drive the citric acid cycle, they support the mitochondria. They obviously are not going to do anything that increases glycation, which the brain is very fragile with. Ketones increase brain derived neurotropic factor. And also, ketones are anti inflammatory. Ketones decrease a Th17 response, which is the part of the immune system that's upregulated in many autoimmune conditions. So, you also see very good research in terms of autoimmunity with a ketogenic diet as well. So, knowing how to use it and knowing how to include greens, we talked about all of that, good guidelines for ketogenic practices. And we talked about how we can use a diet like that to help break through in somebody who's experiencing more aggressive symptoms, more aggressive pain, like somebody with an runaway autoimmune condition. Today, we talked about that example in terms of rheumatoid arthritis. And we talked about some strategies that had taken this patient from a state of extreme joint pain really into remission. And then she let go of her healthy diet and lifestyle, began to flare again. And we talked about the use of a ketogenic diet to help put her back in balance more quickly so we don't risk inflammation doing damage to tissue, and talked about using a ketogenic diet as a natural anti-inflammatory in the diet that has side benefits instead of side effects. So looking at diet as a tool that we can utilize, especially when people feel more overwhelmed, when they're in more of an acute state, less well-being, reaching for our diets because of the strength they have in terms of really helping people turn the corner towards better wellness.